the long-awaited world stuff update. I call it world stuff. So put into that everything that's going on in the world, right? So this is the long-awaited, some people would say overdue update. And I've actually had a lot of resistance to doing it. And I actually started recording it yesterday on audio, and then I got interrupted and I'm like, is this my resistance? There's a lot of things that I want to cover in this live stream today. So I'm just going to share this, and then I'm going to go through the list of all the things we're going to cover. And if you've got any world stuff, like questions that you want to ask me, go ahead and type them in the comments, of course. All right, so just let me be present and share this, and I'll let some people jump on. Say hi when you're here, of course. Let me know what you're worried about in the world. Okay, hopefully that will work now. Hello. Hi. Hello. Holly and Mel. Hello. Right, sharing this one more time. Yes, CERN is definitely one of the things we're going to talk about for sure. So I'm just going to bring up your comments here as well. All right, sweet. Worried about the bees? Yeah, the bees have been coming up a bit as well, haven't they? Okay. Hi, Karen. Okay, so let me do a little bit of a run through about what I'm going to sort of cover in this live stream. This is something that I would usually do like on an audio and then take it off this platform because I've been worried about it, and me getting interrupted with it yesterday. Like, I've been wanting to do it, needing to do it, wanting to do it for ages. Have had a lot of resistance to doing it. And then I got interrupted yesterday, which doesn't usually stop me, but in my current situation, it stopped me. And I'm like, then I was like, I don't want to do an audio. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get on live stream. I'm like, whatever's. I've kind of like reached my like whatever point with it. And to be honest, the big part of the resistance is because I just don't fucking care anymore. And it's more like I'm being called to do other things. And it's, yeah, and I guess the basis of that resistance, talking about it, is what I'm really going to cover in everything that I talk about today. So I'm going to talk about the resistance. I'm going to talk about, I just got my list here as well, so I make sure that I don't forget anything really important. So I'm going to talk about the resistance. I'm going to talk about the different clouds in the sky. So I'm also going to be mindful about the wording that I use, of course, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, you guys know what I'm talking about. So the resistance that I've had to doing this, different clouds in the sky, the Nibiru stuff, the flat earth stuff, the CERN stuff, the level of dark energies and dark entities, and that like seems to sweep through with people at the moment. I wasn't planning to, but it's coming to mind to talk about the people who are dying at the moment for some reason. So that wasn't part of it, but that's dropped in. Talk about, oh my goodness, starting off really well today. Talking about upgrades as well. So alongside all this dark energy, so to speak, what's really going on is big upgrades, yeah, and big all sorts of stuff. And then also talking about why on certain dates, yeah. So I just want to point out on this live stream that I'm not like a flat earther. I'm not like a chemtrailer. I'm not like I really couldn't give a rat's ass about all this world shit. Like, and you know, whilst it's been very in our face for the last 2 years, especially, we have to remember that this shit has been going on for millennia. And the biggest piece about all of this is that you have to remember that it's so much bigger than what we're being shown on our little devices here. And for this and against this and for this and against this and hang on, there's this one. Oh, hang on a sec, there's another wave of it now. And then there's monkeypox and then there's all these things. And hang on, that didn't grab. So oh, hang on, we're just going to throw this other thing in. And then everyone's like, Hannah, CERN's happening. And I'm like, how does everybody all of a sudden know that? And you have to wonder why. How does everybody all of a sudden know something? Oh, because it was on social media. Oh, because it was on the news. Oh, because it was this and because it was that. And we know that anything in the world happens via marketing. You know that thing where you're just thinking about something and then all of a sudden you start seeing ads for it? And yes, whilst that happens when you like click on a website and they cookie you and then you get like all the ads coming up, and whilst they've changed the little like how they get in there because of privacy laws and all this sort of stuff, they'll still come up and it'll say accept cookies and you're like, okay, because I need to see this thing, thank you. But then there's the times where you're thinking it comes up and you're like, I didn't actually voice that. And you're like, are they in my head? How did that happen if I didn't actually voice it? Like, we know Siri's listening all the time. And, you know, it's so funny to me. Like, people are like, get on Telegram because, you know, it's like safe. And I'm like, so hang on a sec. Telegram's open and like you're safe talking about your thing. But hang on, Siri's still listening. Or Alexa's still listening. Or whoever it is still listening. Like, unless you've specifically gone in and turned off all of those applications and all of those privacy settings, Siri's listening. So there you're on your Telegram or you're on your WhatsApp and Siri's still listening anyway. So like, it doesn't really make sense to me. Do you know what I mean? It's funny when people are like stressing about it and I'm like, dude, I'm pretty sure Siri's listening. Right? AI is listening all the time. Now, something that happened like, it was 2018, I remember it so clearly. And this is important for what I'm talking about with all this world stuff today. I know I've spoken about this before, but this is an important factor. So in 2018, I was, you know, doing my thing, doing my workflow, talking to my clients, doing my thing. And this thing dropped in and I was like, wow, imagine if we could, like, instead of printing something out on our, you know, cloggy computer and we like bring up the printer and then we go, okay, press print, and it's either plugged in or it's either Bluetooth to our printer and it prints out. Imagine if you could like think something and it could print out, not via your computer, but you just think it. That was in 2018 that dropped in. Now we all know that technology exists. We all know more technology exists than what they show us. Yeah? Now, those sorts of factors, when that dropped in about like the, you know, thinking a thought and printing something out rather than it going through your computer, it's a pretty huge concept really. But of course, that's where the technology's at, right? Just insert a chip and away you go, right? So when we look at that, what I realized at that point in time, so I don't have them here, so my, like the Bluetooth headsets, right? It is Black Mirror, yeah. Bluetooth headsets, everybody can feel that. It's a bit like Wi-Fi, like especially if you're an empath, if you're a sensitive person, you can feel Bluetooth. Like, you know, for me, like I use Bluetooth, okay? Because when I'm in the kitchen and I'm in my flow, sometimes I need the music to like get shit done, and the wireless earphones are the best. When I'm driving in my car, Bluetooth is there, like it's a thing. But I can feel when I've reached my limit with it. I can feel when it's enough. I can feel when it starts burning my fucking ears. It's insane, right? It's crazy. And sometimes it's more than others. And you have to ask why. So we're just gonna leave that to the side for the minute. So if you're just joining, if you've got questions about any of the world stuff, please just pop it in the comments. So worried about the bees, Holly said, and then talking about CERN. So you have to come back and ask the question, right? So for those of you who don't know what CERN is, it's like the big like machine that they've got and created, and apparently now there's several of them around the world. And basically they like fuck with the energetics of our planet and the universal cosmos. They put out a certain vibration and frequency and rip holes in reality and open portals and stuff. Like, in short, that's what it does, okay? And it's pretty mind-blowing to think that that's the shit that's going on. The other part about it is like the clouds in the sky that they spray specifically. Now, being out here, like I've always known that for a long time, and I just sort of like didn't really pay much attention to it because I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it's happening. It's a bit like chemicals in food. It's a bit like, you know, the list is endless, yeah? Being out here on 250 acres in the last 2 years, it has been so noticeable, and it makes me wonder if I've been plonked here for a reason just to see that even, right? It's so noticeable when it's a beautiful clear sky, and I've started noticing patterns of like, they come from a certain direction. So I'm in Noosa Hinterland, Australia, Queensland, Australia, and they come from the southwest. And they always come, and it looks like, I call them cloud trains. They literally come like a freaking choo-choo train, and they are traveling at speed. And it is one big line. And there is big machinery. And, you know, it's interesting, like when I went on my road trip in 2020, my 5-month road trip, we actually crossed out near the southwest border of southern Queensland. So in the corner of like, you've got Northern Territory, we've got New South Wales, South Australia, and then Queensland's up here. So we like drove really close to the border out there, and we camped out there, and I heard like, I was like, what is this fog coming through? Like, it was weird. It was, we were traveling, it was in winter, it was winter, but this fog like came out of nowhere, and it was like weird. And then like we heard this like, it sounded like a truck coming. Now when I've been out here, I've also heard like a truck coming. Like I'm inside and I'm like, oh, somebody's here. Go outside because it sounds like a truck, because there's no one out here. So you notice when you hear things, right? Go outside. I'm like, okay, I don't see any lights in the distance. Okay, it sounds like a truck. Okay, still waiting. Okay. You know, when a truck or a car comes, it like the sound changes. The sound wasn't changing. It sounded like a truck in the distance, but sound wasn't changing. And then I've also heard like the high pitch frequency. You know, like what a dog whistle is, and it's the high pitch, but we don't hear it because it's for dogs, right? But I've heard that, and I'm like, what is going on? Like I thought like the washing machine was beeping or something, and I was like, went outside again, and I'm like, nope. I was like, what? I don't know what that is, right? And I've heard it several times. Now, the thing is that there's normal clouds, there's chemtrail clouds, and then there's all the Nibiru stuff. Now, when I heard about the Nibiru stuff, that made a lot of sense to me. But there's still normal clouds, chemtrail, and Nibiru clouds, right? Which is all the planetary stuff. Now, people have said to me recently about the Nibiru stuff being another psyops. And I'm like, could be. What, just like all this virus stuff? Where do viruses even come from? Where do viruses come from? I think your name is pronounced Leanne. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Leanne says, I hear that a lot, but no one else can hear it. Yeah, so say hi to you guys here. And I see people jumping on, so welcome. So with the Nibiru stuff, with any of it, it's all a psyops. The thing is, right, I know I'm jumping, but I know you'll be with me. They're turning CERN on. Again, you have to ask why. They're turning CERN on the 4th and 5th of July, apparently. Okay. Why does everybody know that? Do we need a disclaimer? And then you have to ask, how does the word spread so fast? It's a bit like the toilet paper thing in, you know, the 2020 stuff. Like, did you guys hear about the toilet paper fiascos in Australia or something? Like, there's no toilet paper on the shelf and everybody knew about it. Where did that even start? How, like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is inception at its greatest. This is the thing that controls the world. Now, there's a lot of conflicting stories out there about, like, oh, there's going to be a big blackout and they're going to shut down the power grids. For me, that doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. I'm like, they control us through the devices and the power. That does not make logical sense. People are like, they're doing the vaccine to wipe off people off the planet and to kill off people and to do like a genocide. And then I'm like, that doesn't make logical sense to me, right? And they're like, oh, but Hannah, there's plaques around the world that actually state this, and that it, like, the population needs to be kept to a certain amount of like people on the planet, and we've reached that, and so now they're like, you know, killing us off and genociding us and blah blah blah. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me. If we are slaves here, if they have trapped us here, right, and they loosh off us, why would they kill us off? It doesn't make sense. You have to remember that the psyops, everything is happening, and they throw truth in with lies. Why do they do that? Because it's one big friggin' muddy, sushi, sloppy mess. They'll throw truth in there, and they'll throw lies, and there's this and this, and what does this create for everybody? What does it create? Come on, guys, tell me. What is the truth and the lies, and then this for confusion and this, and what does it create? What does that even create for people? To build chaos? Yep. To build chaos, more loosh, fighting, separate and divide, all of that. Because that's what they feed off. Fear, yep. So, you know, it's taken me like 6 months or more to do one of these, like, you know, what is it called? The world update. And I said at the start, I've had resistance to it because I just don't want to fucking do it. I'm over it. Right? I've got other shit to do. Right? At the same time, I know, like, it's important for me to speak about it at times. So here I am. And I did a live stream in January called I Feel Betrayed by the Dark. Because I don't want to feed the beast anymore. That's what I said in there. Right? And it's been a while since I've done one. For the past 3 days, for the past week, I've been trying to sit down and do it. Yesterday, I actually recorded nearly an hour's worth on an audio, and then I got interrupted, and then it was just one thing after the next. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to leave it till tomorrow. Whatever's. Right? And in the space of being interrupted all this week and trying to sit down and do it all this week, my daughters decided to sit down and watch movies, right? And I've like come in and out because I'm cooking dinner or I'm doing this or that, and I'll sit down and watch a little bit with her, and then I'm doing other stuff, and you know what? The parts that I've been watching have all been the fucking same in all these different movies. And I'm like, well, what a surprise. What a surprise. I'm like, is this why I'm being distracted? Because I need to include this in? I'm like, that makes total sense. They just stocked the pond, left it to breed more for the cause. Distraction from knowing our own power, separation, anger, segregation, fear. Yes, exactly. All of that, right? So when you understand, right, and you really think about the big picture here, and this is the thing, like, you know, I got so angry. Everyone's like messaging me saying, like, I'm not angry at you guys telling me, right? But just angry at the fact that I'm like, and how does everybody know this all of a sudden? And and when I ask that question, I'm like, because I'm like, and it's just been like spread through AI really quickly to like stir up certain groups on the planet. Why? To like get them to, number one, focus on it. Number two, they're going to talk about it. And what does that do? Oh, there's more energy on it. What are we doing? We're feeding the fucking beast. And sure, I'm doing this live stream because I'm just so fucking sick of talking about it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like so agitated because I'm like, I've got shit to do and I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm done, right? But there's all this stuff going on. Now, I just saw it again, and so I'm going to come back to, I reckon it was probably May, I think it was May, so what are we now, June? So I reckon it was like end of May, beginning of June. It was a couple of weeks ago, and there was some fucking heavy energy around. There's been some heavy energy around, right, for quite some time now, and I personally feel it's only going to intensify for the next 6 to 12 months, to be honest. And I'll talk about why that is, even 18 months I'm hearing. And again, like even when this was happening about a month or so ago, I wanted to live stream about it, and I've just been doing this. I've been in a huge life recalibration of my own, so I've been very internal. I haven't spoken about much at all, except with my clients, right, and in my private groups. But the thing that came through about May, June, and the only way I can describe it, right, is June, not June the month, like June, like a sand dune. So June, D-U-N-E. Now, there was a movie that got released last year called June, like Sand Dune, D-U-N-E. And I haven't seen it. I watched the snippet of the preview and it explains everything. It's how I watch movies these days. I watch the little snippet, I watch the preview, and I'm like, I understand the whole story. Thank you very much. Got it, right? Because you can put the pieces of the puzzle together. And especially when we know that it's all hidden in plain sight and they're telling us everything, like that's technically why I watch snippets, because I'm like, okay, cool, got it, right? And in May, June, July, right? May, June, it was probably about a week to 10 days. And the way I described it, and actually there was a lot of people that passed away. I know a lot of people pass away all the time, right? There's a lot of people that passed away in a very short space of time. And somebody had said they've come through and swept through and taken all these souls. Now, I agree with them. At the same time, there's other factors at play here. There's people's own choosing of the divine life purpose and their own path and the whole bigger picture of the whole synchronistic understanding and symbiotic flow of the whole thing, right? And in May, June, it came through, and the way I was describing it with my clients was, you know, like a big tractor, and they have the big turning, I don't know if it's like the lawnmower or they're chopping all the stuff, like the big turny thing on the back of the tractor, right? It literally looked like one of those turning machine things, right? But massive. And if you've got the planet or the solar system, right? It's like, this is how big that I saw it, okay? Like the solar system that we're in, okay? This is what this hand represents, the solar system. This big churny didn't look like a tractor. It had the churny thing on the front, okay? And it looked like a big tube. It looked like what was out of Dune, the movie, okay? The big thing that comes out of the sand. It looks like a fucking parasite. Oh, with the hooks on it, you know, like a parasite has hooks and they stick in your bowel and your gut, and that's why you got to detox and all that sort of thing. And we get parasites, and that's why we worm our dogs and our cats and ourselves, and we should be doing detoxes regularly, right? It looked like, and it had a big churny thing, and it came through our solar system, and the churny thing with the big tube on the back of it, and it was like and it was just black. Like if you can imagine like a sand dune, right? And like a big, what are they called? Like a tornado or something, but on its side, not standing up. And it stirs up all the dust and it stirs up all the sand, but it was like black soot. And it was sucking up everything as it went along. And for about 10 days to 2 weeks, that's what I could see when I was like, what is this energy? And that's what I could see. Now, is that, and has that got to do with CERN or what's going to happen on the 4th, 5th of July? Nobody really knows. But it's so important to understand that on the 4th and 5th of July, now that they've specifically told us through and via AI, because that's how they control us and that's how they get their illusion, that's how they do blah, 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 right? Know that whatever you're feeling right now, oh, and by the way, little side note, we've got a super full moon coming up in, you know, about 2 weeks from now. Like, what are we now, Friday? So about 2 weeks from now, we've got a super full moon. Not just a full moon, a super full moon. Apparently there's a really rare conjunction of planets happening right now for the first 2 weeks of July as well. There is a lot of external factors going on. Now, when we put all that into perspective, and Pam Gregory talked about back in December that there was a conjunction happening in the planets. I'm not an astrologist, so bear with me with why I describe this. She describes it perfectly because that's what she does. So Pam Gregory said there's a specific conjunction that was going on in December on the eclipse. And basically, I can't remember, was it 1775 or 1600s? I think it was 1775, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me. It was something around there. And that's when the USA was first founded. Now, that conjunction that happened in December was the same conjunction that happened when the USA was founded all the way back then. But that conjunction has not happened since that was founded. Now, this week, apparently, like this first month, this first couple of weeks of July, is again another like conjunct. So we've had it in December, we're having it now, and then apparently, I think she said it's also in December again. So it's like 3 times this year, right? So if you can think and imagine that when the USA was founded years and years and years ago, that same planetary alignment hasn't happened since then. Now, in my personal opinion, when I was tuning into it, I was like, and I feel like that structure is disintegrating. It is definitely recalibrating. And of course, that's a no-brainer with what we see going on the planet. I want to personally say they're losing control and they're trying to control. Everybody knows that, okay? And the way that they have control is via our attention. It is via our attention. Our attention and the lower emotions that we feel. It's not that don't get me wrong here. It's not about not feeling low emotions. I've been angry, I've been sad, I've been dealing with the trauma of the dog attack. It's been really hard. It's been really hard. Like everything just keeps getting in the way of me sitting down and doing my work. Like it's not been easy for me. Like I know it's not been easy for a lot of people, but I've been losing my shit more than I've ever done before. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like it is insane at the moment. I'm like, come on. Like, and then I'm like, yes, sweet. All this good stuff's happening. And then all of a sudden, like, woof, it's like tsunami, tsunami. And I'm like, and I'm fucking riding it like a pro surfer, man, I tell you, but it's not easy. It's not easy. I've been like breaking down in tears in the morning. And then I'm like, get ready. I'm like, sweet, get my hair done. I'm going to get everything ready. I'm all good to go. And then the dog goes out and gets absolutely covered in mud because it's raining and I fucking lose my shit. I'm like, I'm just about to sit down and work. And now I'm gonna wash the fucking puppy. Like, obviously it's like self-induced. I got a puppy for fuck's sake, but it's just like exponential, like insanity. Now I just got my treadmill delivered and I'm like, this is gonna bring me sanity. I could walk for an hour or more every fucking day. I'm like, bring it. Because the thing that is going to get us through these really hard times, that is going to get more intense, right, is exercise, grounding, meditation that connects you, right? Still, my meditation is your most powerful ally. Yoga, all the like body movement stuff, qigong, like whatever your thing is, fucking do it, because it's the body that's going to be your best protection and ground you from these energies, right? And the connection to source, that's like primary. But I want to say your connection to source, your vessel for source is your beautiful body, right? And if you're disconnected from this, everything's going to be 50 million times harder. So, and for me, I've been like my own personal journey through this is it's been really hard because in the past month, I've just started reconnecting to my finger, but in the reconnection to my finger, because I was told that I couldn't move it for 6 months and then I got told that I needed to amputate it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go sort this out myself then, because if you're going to tell me you're going to do that, I'm going to do everything to make it not happen. Anyway, long story short is in the reconnection to my finger, I realized how disconnected I've been from my whole body because I just blocked it out. And I'm just like facing all this stuff now. And the reconnection is like insane. And I'm like, at the same time, I'm crying because I'm just like, I'm back. Like Hannah's back. Like for fuck's sake, where have I been? I'm like, Jesus Christ, like what is going on with this world? They're the energies at the moment. And it's really fucking crazy. It's really crazy. Because at the same time, I've been like, oh, I need to like move house. And then like every time that comes up, I'm like, that's not the solution. There's other things that have like been going on. I've been talking about them in my private groups. Anyway, Yes, Natalie, I'm live right now. You found me live. Michelle says, I've cried every morning for the last year and a half. Good. The morning is like one of the most powerful times to let your tears out. Why? Because you've just woken up from sleep and it's all at the surface. So it's a very, very profound, very potent time for releasing. And you know, it's so funny. A little side note, I was going to create this reel, but I don't know how I'd do it yet because reels are still like, you know, new to me in a way. Especially like all the cutting bits. Anyway, the point is like I saw this woman. It cracked me up, right? I saw this woman on a reel on Instagram, and she's like, every morning I've had this beautiful ritual like for years, ever since I was a kid, and I wake up and the sun's on my face and there's all these like sparkly things going on the filter and this beautiful music in the background, and she's like, and I open my eyes and I thank God that I'm alive and I take a deep breath, and I just started like posting myself laughing. I'm like, this is like the best reel of like me showing that, and then coming on in my dressing gown and my hair's like all just woken up and the cats are woken me up at 4:30. Oh sorry, it's the puppy now, and I'm carrying the dog out for a piss and the cats are wanting, like I'm just like, yeah, welcome to my mornings. My beautiful morning routine. I was like, hang on, reality check. Mornings are a powerful time for the feelings to come up. And because my morning routine has been shattered with the puppy, like the puppy's been hard, but it's broken me out of all these like habitual patterns that I didn't know I had, like getting up in the morning, like having my coffee, doing my journaling, jumping straight into work. Like whilst that has served me, obviously I'm needing to break that. And in breaking that, all the tears are coming out. Yeah. So morning routines are whatever is good. Any routine is what is really resonates with you, right? So it takes nothing to start it. Yeah. And that's because when we sleep, all the feelings are right there. And you know, it's so important, like, you know, understanding with children why they won't go to sleep and why they keep waking up in the night, especially if they're over 6 months of age, because 6 months of age, they have a big enough stomach that food will get them through. So it's not food and they're not hungry after 6 months of age as a baby, and anything after 6 months of age that's waking them up in the night is actually feelings and tears and crying, because when we go to sleep, that's what surfaces, right? Whether an adult or not. So, you know, when we wake up at 2 a.m. and we can't get back to sleep, that's because you're full of feelings and you're not dealing with them, right? So yeah, you hate crying. Well, crying is very healing. And you know, I want to say crying is healing. Crying with someone presently listening to you, like a lot of the times with my clients, there's a lot of things and different things that I do, but there's a lot of sessions that I've had with clients where I'm like pulling them in, and I want to say I'm holding them in their tears, and I'm sitting there presently with their tears, because it is one of the most powerful healing mechanisms on the planet. And not many people are good at sitting there while somebody's crying, because they're like, hang on a sec, oh, here's the keys, like shaking the keys, oh, distraction, oh, look at the bird outside, did you see that? Oh, hang on, let me pull an oracle card for you, hang on, let me check out what's this, oh, hang on a sec, we better do this meditation, oh, what about this, and what, no. Presence is the most powerful healing you can ever give anybody. Just sitting there. That's what I do with my clients. I do a lot of things, but it's one of the big things. And it shifts more than anything else on the planet. But it takes a skill and a knowingness of how to pull someone into that. A lot of people we're trained as a society not to feel. And that's why we lose it. Right? And that's why they quote unquote loosh off us, because they've taught us not to feel, and so we suppress, and that's actually what they're eating, if you may. If you want to put it in those words, it's not even the right words for it. Hi Hector, hello. Okay, so Claire said, okay, sorry, I'm just checking these, oh yeah, so Claire said distraction from knowing our own power. And then Mel said, and distraction so people get swept away from what they really should be doing energetically. And that's why I'm fucking angry lately. That is why I'm angry, because everything else is pulling me away from what I really want to do. And so I'm like, you know, this is why I've been going through this big recalibration, and, you know, because I used to be so good at just focusing on what I'm doing. And I think if I look at the, you know, everyone's been distracted with it in the last 2 years, and it's even more harder to like just focus on what we're being guided to do without getting pulled into world stuff, because we're all here with it, you know, and energetically, collectively, now everybody's hooked into it because it's been so big in the last 2 years, if that makes sense. So it's even like more mastery, discipline to do that, if you may. Claire said, that's what I meant, but you explained it better around the distraction from knowing our own power. Exactly, right? And okay, so here's the crux of all this stuff, okay? Like CERN, the distractions, the he said, she said, this is better, this is wrong, you're right, no, it's this is what's going on, or this is actually, no, separate, divide, blah, 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 blah. You have to ask why, right? You have to ask why there's truth and then there's lies. You have to ask why they're chemtrail spraying to like keep us numb, to keep us sick, to do blah, 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 to wipe us out, flying like Sprite, fly spray, etc., etc. That's what people say. That's what the conspiracists say, okay? And I'm saying it conspiracists because there's truth, but we get told that's the witch hunt. Come on, right? You get it. The reality is you have to ask why they're doing that. And you'll be like, oh, because they're making us sick, because they want to kill us off. And I'm like, well, if you just remember what I said at the start of this live stream, I'm like, it doesn't make logical sense. If they have trapped us here, if they have invaded and taken over to like make us interbreed and blah, 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 and loosh off us, they're not going to kill their food, for goodness sake. It doesn't make logical sense. So you have to ask why. You have to ask why they are creating machines that are trying to replicate pulling holes and stargates and opening rips in the ethers and reality and blah, blah, blah. Yeah? So when we look at why they are doing that, and then when you look at the Nibiru stuff of the planets, and when I've started, like, you know, the thing with me is the Nibiru stuff makes sense. And it makes sense because in February, there was a distinct change in the platmospheric atmosphere. Interesting. Platmospheric, is that a word? I just made up a word. The planet atmosphere, platmospheric atmosphere, whatever. The planet atmosphere, there's something in that. It's like platonic. It's like something trying to come. So what is that? Plutonic. I know what that means, but plutonic is like, hang on, I know what this means. I'm always looking up stuff. Plutonic. So plutonic is like it's intimate and affection, no, but not sexual. So it's just like it's a love that's not sexual or romantic. So it's like a friend, right? Okay, so just gonna leave that to the side for a minute. So, and that's interesting, right? The platonic, atmospheric, and this is the thing, right? Okay, I'm just gonna leave that to the side. So in February, there was a distinct change in the atmosphere. Like the sunsets and sunrises that I watch religiously because like I freaking love them, and the sun gazing and all that sort of jazz. Like, you know, like I've watched sunsets and sunrises for years, and I'm like, I know when there's a change, right? New realm, exactly, right? We've entered into a new dimension. We've entered into a new planetary space. And the thing is that for a long time when I've gone and done energy updates, and I'm like, it feels like if I was to try and describe the energy, if our solar system was moving through the earth and like through the skies, through the cosmos, and there's another solar system, and they come in and they bump each other, and then they separate and they continue on, or they come in and they merge as one, that's what the energy feels like. Like I have said that for years. And then I started learning about Nibiru stuff, and I'm like, well, this just makes sense to me. And you know why it always also makes sense? Is because if you listen to any of my meditations that I've created in 2018 especially, I'm like, we're walking through the sacred sanctuary and look up. What do you see? There's a planet here. Not like what we see on like our current day. Like it's like out of a movie, planets. Like they're just hanging here. Like you could literally walk onto another planet. Like that's what I've created in my meditations because I've seen it. That's why I created it. I was showing what I created in my meditations. That's how they come to me. It's channeling or whatever, right? And like when the Nibiru stuff, I was like, but this is what I've always seen. So it makes total sense. The other piece that's been coming through is like, on whatever movie or whatever it is, and basically the white man arrives on the deserted island and the tribal people come out, and like the white man's trying to like point to the ship in the horizon, and the tribal people can't see it because it's just not in their reality. Like, that's also going on right now. And this is where the separation and divide and the two planets and the split, at the end of the day, like, some people are just not conscious enough to see through the veil. They're not conscious to see the expansion of reality. They're just, and that's why some people are just stuck in their little world, and they'll die just knowing their little world. Like, you know what I mean? It's like people won't wake up until they're ready. So there's no point in trying to focus on that and just do your purpose, because that's eventually going to wake them up. That's not the point of why you're doing it, but you're contributing to that. Every single person's every single person's purpose on this planet is to awaken the consciousness in some way, shape, or form. Because it's an evolution of human. That's what we're doing. Yeah? Okay, there was more to where I was going with that. Oh yeah, so the sunsets, the platinum sunset and sunrises, and just recently, maybe like the past month, they've been really red. Really red. And people are like, oh, but that's from like all the metals and everything reflecting in the skies. And I'm like, well, that should have been going on 50 years ago, because that's when the chemtrails began. But it hasn't been. This is recent. Something has shifted in the atmosphere, and sensitive humans like you and me can feel it. And now we're seeing it. And in 2018, when I was recording a big chunk of the crown chakra consciousness meditations, that's what I've got shown. And I'm like, now we're seeing it. You have to ask the question, why are they putting out low vibrations on the planet? Why are they ripping holes in the ethers to like suck souls into? And it's more an energy, right? Why are they quote unquote harvesting souls? Why are they keeping us asleep? Why don't they want the truth out? Because the truth is that reality, like the Matrix and Truman Show, will rip a veil in reality right freaking here. That we can step into another portal right here. You only have to watch the movies to see that. So going back to the movies that, you know, my daughter's been watching, I think one of them was Spider-Man. Saw one of the snippets in Spider-Man. They did exactly that. And the like dark wizard's cave, like under the main building in the town, in the city. I'm like, well, we know that, right? And it opens up the portals in all directions and time. And I'm like, that's what we do in our meditations. In the full moon ceremonies, like, we do that stuff. Like, that's normal. And they're showing that on the movies. Okay. There's more I want to say, but I'm just going to read these comments. Karen says, I'm a quiet observer and don't take on any info, as I stand in my own truth and live in the present moment and go with the flow. Awesome. Fully sovereign in the power. Danielle says, like a combined harvester. Yeah, that's the ones. Yes, they have that in a kid's animation also. Oh, wow. Yes. That. And the other thing is interesting with all those Disney movies and everything like that, all the realms, like the Care Bears. The Care Bears. Who remembers the Care Bears? The Care Bears lived in the clouds. Like, hello, other realms right there, right? What's the other one? Like Jack and the Beanstalk. Like all these cartoons and animations that they're feeding us as a kid, make believe, like it's a fairy tale, they don't exist. Actually they do, when they've like reversed it so that we don't believe in it, when actually that's the truth. If you're highly sensitive, you will see that. You've felt the realms. You felt when a spirit walks past. You felt when, you know, the veils are thin and there's more spirits around. Like, you feel that. You know that. Yeah? Hector says yes to the conjunctions indeed. Yeah, the planetary lineups at the moment are really interesting, and it's only going to get more interesting in the coming years. And like I was saying, you have to ask why they're trying to keep us asleep. Is because, number one, the truth is awakening. Everybody knows that. But especially on these certain dates and these certain portals, because when certain planets line up, there are certain powerful portals, and that's why priestesses and Avalon and all those places used to do certain ceremonies. That's why there's what is it? Egyptians, friggin' pyramids, pyramids in Egypt lined up in like conjunction with the stars all around the world actually, and other portals that are so in alignment. Like, you know, like the flat earth stuff, there's some interesting theories in that, and the Tartaria stuff even as well, you know, makes you really go deep into it and really question everything, right? And if you go back through your ancestry, and why have they even put ancestry.com out in the world, so that they can get everyone's data on their DNA, right? The most what is it? The most sought after commodity on the planet is DNA, is consciousness. Yeah. Claire says, you're so good at explaining things. I struggle to put it all into words. Yeah, I struggle at times too, because we're trying to put words onto an energy, and that's hard. But it takes practice. This is practice as well. Okay, just checking these comments. Mel said, people can't handle seeing others upset and constantly want to fix it. Yeah, 100%. That's what we're trained as a society. Because if we feel and we consciously understand our feelings, that's emotional intelligence, and that's like our power. And they don't want us in our power. They don't want us emotionally intelligent. They want us dumb and numb so that we conform. Michelle says, I shut my feelings out for so long that it's overwhelming now. Yeah, and you said 18 months. You said a year and a half, if I remember correctly. Like, that's one of the pivotal portals of healing, 18 months. Yeah, it takes 18 months to heal a cycle, especially when you like choose to like, okay, I'm going to deal with this now. Like, and there'll be lots of grief that comes out, especially if you've not cried for their whole life, like, to be expected for a couple of years. And it's not easy, but what I would recommend, especially after this length of time, Michelle, is working with someone like myself or someone else who can hold space for feelings like that. Because holding space for feelings, like, I don't know, just an example, what you clear in 18 months by yourself, you could clear in 6 months or 3 months with someone who knows how to facilitate that. So yeah, and that's what I train my students in Trust and Intuition in my course with, because it's one of the most powerful healing tools on the planet, and you don't need anything anywhere, right? So yeah, really important to find someone who can hold space as well, especially after that length of time. Kristen says, yes, a lot want to find a solution instead of just listen. Yeah, because the reality is that when you just listen, the person already knows the answer. And what you're doing is you're draining the thread and clearing off all the surface layers, and the core comes up by itself if someone would just listen. Yeah? Leanne says, I've taken a picture of what looks like a red planet behind the sun. Yeah, exactly. There's this red planet there. And, it's so interesting, right? In January on Netflix, they released with Leonardo DiCaprio, like, don't look up. Like, don't look at the freaking red sun coming into the sky. Like, a month later, then the sky's turned platinum and now we're in the red sky, right? It's like, don't look up. Like, asteroids coming, I don't believe, like, technically what Netflix is saying. But at the same time, there's a big pole shift going on as well. And someone just said to me as well, just this week, because talking about it, and he was saying that apparently he read somewhere or something that it's moving at such a rapid speed at the moment, like it's coming up to a tipping point, and apparently there's another 8 or 9 months or something, and that's when it's gonna like flip, but then there'll be lots of north poles and lots of south poles or something like that, right? And as soon as you said it, like I saw it, and it's like, I was like, there's the multiverse. There's the multiverse, there's the portal, if you may. And if you can imagine ascension and what we're moving through in the solar system, it's like we're constantly like, and I've said for a little while, remember in my energy updates, I think more last year, and I said it felt like we were coming into a bottleneck, and it's like the energy, it's like we're coming into this big space and expansive space, and we're moving through this portal, and then it's gonna go like that. And it's interesting, like, even lately I've been feeling, and I think I said at the start of the year in one of my live streams, like it feels like it's rumbling underneath, and that's probably the pole shift stuff that I could feel. But it's interesting because the multiverse, and the thing that's shifting is number one, consciousness, but within that and the awakening of consciousness is also the veil of the illusion of what reality is. Like you ask everyone, and time is not what it was 5-10 years ago. Time is very different, and timelines have even changed in the past 2 years. So what used to be a timeline, like a long line of a timeline, it's now shifted into little dots, like the little dots everywhere. And so it's like this, we can jump from different timelines, and that's why it's like, where is your intention and where's your clarity for the timeline that you're traveling and creating? Because it's not a line anymore, it's a little dot. And that's why we jump around and we wonder why nothing's happening and manifesting in our life, because we're just jumping this option, this option, this option. That's why nothing's set in stone for the future, because it depends on where we're at within ourselves. Yeah, The sun and the moon are off from where they usually are too. Yes, that has definitely shifted too. Holograms to fool everyone. Exactly. A lot of double rainbows. Yeah, there's been a lot of rainbows. So I think it was around that February, March, April even. There was a lot of rainbows too. A lot of rainbows. You can definitely jump timelines. It's a choice. It's a choice. Because you have a choice to create the reality you want to. It's a choice, but it's a choice plus work, disciplined, consistent work will create your reality. Not just wishing it, but choosing it, deciding, taking action every day, committed, disciplined will create a different reality. But if you say you want something, but you keep doing what you're doing, well, of course you're going to stay over here. Yeah? That's like a no-brainer sense. Angela says, yes, I've noticed the sunsets and sunrises too. I swear the moon seems so much closer and is out in daylight more than when I was a kid. It seems different. Yeah, and so this super moon coming up in 2 weeks is going to be closer to Earth as well. Yes, they are very bright. Yeah. Tracy's a flat earther. Yes. The rabbit hole of darkness is deep. Yeah, 100%. And that's why, like, you know, explore what you're being called to explore. You don't know what your intuition is teaching you, but know how to pull yourself out. Know how to pull yourself out. Know what you're really here for so you can actually do that. Yeah. Yes, definitely important to work with someone. I've always got mentors. Leanne says, I saw something about the Sphinx closing its eyes. Maybe we are in another realm. And I believe we are, and we have shifted into another realm for sure. Like, it happens with time, like timelines, and it happens with certain conjuncts. Like, that's why planets and stuff line up. There's portals, like there's portals, veils, and realities that can shift and open. Like, it's a thing, you know. It's definitely, you know, and that's, I want to say that's why the consciousness is awakening, because everything is shifting. Like, the earth is shifting in vibrational frequency. We are, like, you know, everything is waking up, you know. It's what's happening at the moment. Bianca says, my ex-husband, we were very connected, passed in September 2020. Took me only until recently to heal and recover. We have 2 children together, and I have a child to my partner, whom I've been with for 5 years. Just as I started to feel healed, my partner packed up and left. I feel wrecked. Do I have another 18 months of healing again? Yes and no. I would definitely work with someone. Like, guys, we can go through this ourselves, or we can work with someone and heal and shift it faster, because you've got someone holding space for you rather than just being a mess of just like everything's happening at once, right? When you've got someone to work with, it does shift faster because you're being held in a container and someone holds you through the process rather than you flicking here and here and here and here and there and then back. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a thing. So I want to say you've got 18 months of healing again, but it's more like if you're conscious of dropping into the grief as deep as you can go when it first happens, it's not drawn out for as long. So the more crying you've done, or the more healing you've done about a particular incident, when it first happens, it doesn't get stored up in your body, and it doesn't get stored up. So for example, right, it took you until recently to heal and recover, and then your partner just left again. Like, your partner just left and you feel wrecked. So if you let yourself drop into this grief and the hurt as much as you can now, it's not going to drag out as long. Doesn't mean that it, you know, goes away. It gets easier to deal with and work on in the waves that it comes in, because grief is a wave. Okay, it'll come in and it will like be howling, and then it will like sort of ease off, and then you'll howl again, and then it'll ease off. It's a breath in and a breath out. It's a wave. It's an ocean. You know what I mean? It's a feeling. It moves. Okay. When you can drop into it, any incident that happens, when you can drop into it as deep as you can when it first happens, it's not going to drag on for as long. Doesn't mean that it doesn't come back on timeline points. So 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 9 months as well. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. Like, there are certain timeline points where it like it happened again today, you know, on these points. And so if you allow this grief, that allows you to move through it faster. Yeah. But I'd definitely be working with somebody. Yeah. And this is what I do with my clients. Obviously, if you want to work one-on-one, send me a private message and we can talk about different options there as well. Bianca says, yes, I worked with someone named Allura after my husband passed. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's important to work with people for sure. Double rainbows are a reflection of one rainbow. It's pretty when we see them. I just had a vision of a business where people could come to grieve. Yes, it's called a healer. It's called a healer. All right, let me see if there's anything else that I need to cover in this world stuff update. Oh yeah, so ultimately, you know, when we think about, okay, so when we feel, sense and understand, and we know, right, when I say it feels like the energies and we're like, at times, especially in the last 2 years, and I'm like, it feels like, if I could try and describe it, our solar system is like crossing another solar system and it comes in and it merges, and it either merges as one or it disappears and keeps traveling on. Like, you guys sort of agree, right? You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but you guys usually go, oh yeah, that's what it feels like, right? If we're trying to place words on an energy or what's going on, right? When we consider that going on, we can start to understand that Nibiru is pretty real. And little side note, so there's things in flat earth that I agree with, and then there's other things that's like, so what? We're just in this big dome, what, in the middle of space? What, in the middle of a warehouse? Like, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, how does it make sense? I get it, but it also doesn't make sense. Anyway, is it, when we look at Nibiru and we look at the other planets coming in and shifting, and we can, as empaths, can feel that energetic shift. We can feel and see and know and hear the energetic portals opening, closing. We know when the veils are thin, like we know all that stuff. So how is that a psyops? But you can now start to see why they're trying to keep us asleep and like fighting on social media and on devices and separating and dividing in the world. You can see why they're trying to keep us here so that we don't see what's going on out there. What is the thing? Don't look up. Don't look up, guys. Look what's coming this year, but don't look up. Just keep, you know, busy on your little social media devices and fighting with each other in the world. And we're going to throw this other thing coming at you now so you can keep looking down here. Like, you have to ask why they are keeping us here so that we don't look up. Yeah? Does Nibiru mean end of times though? Okay, so we have to remember, and the other thing is, like, you know, in 2012, it's like the end of the Mayan calendar, end of the world. Everyone's like, it's the end of the world. Well, actually, it's the end of the current consciousness of the world, and it was also the start of a whole new, like, I want to say, my personal opinion is like the whole new dimension of energy. We're stepping into a whole new realm of being, yeah? And everyone can feel that energy is different from back then, right? Life is different. I understand we grow and we change, but life is also different on an energetic sense, right? Technology speeded things up, blah, 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 but you can have to ask the question, why do they, you know, when anyone brings to my attention something that's going on in the world, like Ukraine stuff or whatever it is, I'm like, what are they hiding? I'm like looking through all, like put it all the Ukraine stuff over there, for example. I'm like digging through, for example, I don't really do this, but like I'm conscious, I'm like intuitively looking outside of what they're showing us, because I'm like, what are they hiding over there? Let me just push that down. So, you know, it's like behind the curtain, you know, like on the Wizard of Oz. And it's like, pull the curtain back, and it's like, oh, he's trying to distract us with this thing. It's like, dude, what are you doing back there? Like, it's that. It's exactly that. And you have to ask why, right? Because there's bigger portals opening up. There's like red moons and all this stuff in the sky and all these things going on. It's like whenever you're being distracted by something, or society is being distracted by something, see it for what it is. Right? Do whatever you feel called to do, but then also put it to the side and go, and what's going on behind here? What are they distracting? I'm going to look over here because they're wanting me to focus over here. So I'm going to focus over here and actually see what's really going on, of why they want distraction of the most of society. If you start asking that question, if we get everyone to ask that question, what do? We take our attention off that, and all of a sudden they do not have any power. Yeah? A lot of bullshit just jumping through the curtain too. What do you mean by that? Like, if you were to actually like go into it, if you mean like, if you are drawn into it, is that what you mean? Power and money, yeah, it's all things. Could be all things. Remy says, I feel like at times the moon is gone, like I won't see it anywhere all night. It's super weird. Well, you have to ask yourself, is it new moon? Is it dark moon phase? Because for 2 weeks of the month, it's like that. You don't see it because it's in the new moon, dark moon phase. So you make sure you want to check that before it's like, I feel like it's not there. It might be dark moon phase like it has been right now. Oh yeah, so Nibiru doesn't mean end times. So I believe it's the end of a current consciousness of the world. And if we ask the question with everything that I've said today, and you know, I'm like, and what's going on behind the curtain? What's the bigger picture that they're wanting to keep you here and not seeing what's going on outside of this little realm, right? When you start asking that question, like, I feel that, like, what comes to mind is, like, where did the Mayan civilization go? For example, like, you know, what about Tartaria? What happened? Why, you know, like the mud floods and, you know, like when you actually see the buildings, you know, the thing about the Tartaria that just like hooked me in was just the whole thing when you see those massive big buildings and castles and they're so eloquently like exquisite, magnificent, like, and huge, and you see a picture of them and there's all these little humans walking around on this magnificent structure and there's humans walking around on the picture and they're this big compared to the beautiful, majestic, like, you know, church. They've turned them into churches, right? Humans can't build that. We didn't fucking build that. You try and build that today, they can't. Like, it's questions like these that just make you go, yeah? That makes sense. So I believe, like when you say does Nibiru mean end times, and I'm like, no, it's the end of a current consciousness, and the veil of reality of what we've known it is changing and shifting, evolving, and it's learning the new frequencies of how to be human in the new frequency world, if you may. And they're trying to keep us asleep to that. Tartaria, I know it's amazing, right? And all over the world, yeah. And all over the world. Like, there's so much Tartaria stuff. Like, when I first like saw it, I was like, straight away, like in Brisbane is my closest city, and I'm like, I've seen those buildings in the city. I'm like, I went there one night. We went out for dinner and stuff because I was like the casino that they're actually going to like destroy and totally rebuild. Apparently, I don't know if it's China or someone else has bought it. And they're going to do this big modern looking futuristic building. Like, I saw the plans for it and I'm like, wow, let's just like, you know, disintegrate Tartaria, shall we? Like, let's just keep hiding it because everyone's waking up to it. Oh dear. But yeah, it's like an evolution of consciousness. It's a stepping into a whole new realm. It's a whole new phase. And that's why it's uncomfortable and uncertain for people. Like, it's not comfortable and it's wobbly because we're grounding in a new structure. And if you're ever worried, like I shared like the sugar cube video. Have you guys seen the sugar cube video? I shared it a while ago. If you're ever worried about, you know, what's happening in society, I'll see if I can find it. So I don't know if it'll come up. I think I might even have it on my thing. I might pop it in the comments. It's like, the more we just focus on our purpose, the more it's crumbling from the inside out. And that's because we're awakening to our power within. And when we do, nothing can stop that. Like, and so the thing that came to mind is the movies that I've just caught snippets of, and even stuff I was watching last year, you know, like they're all the same. And even this week it's the same. And, you know, like, what was she watching? Is it Avengers or something? And I just caught the bit where she like got held down and locked up with all this like nanotech was holding her, and basically they were in her mind and she's in like all her memories and the bad guys there, and there's all these memories coming back of like, you're worthless, and she like fell off her like bicycle as a kid, and then like she got hit by the baseball bat and it's like, you're hopeless and like you're worthless and you can't do it, and like and basically it was like feeding off all the negative emotions, right? I'm like, got it. And then basically she like, then you see the next scene is like all her inner childs in the memories like standing up and like reclaiming her power, and then she breaks out of the nanotech and she turns into this light being and her power's up, and she pulls out this implant from behind her neck and throws it on the ground, and then she beats the bad guys. And I'm like, that. It's interesting how they're showing that in all the fucking movies. Like, I was like, how many? I said to her today, I'm like, do you know how many movies I've seen where they take out the implant at the back of the neck? And she's like, I don't care, Mum. And I'm like, there's so many. There's so many. And this is the thing where we take out our freaking attention to it. Sometimes you do need to have implants removed. Like in my psychic work that I do, in my distance healings, when I work with my clients, sometimes we are actually removing implants. It's a thing. It's definitely like, you know, I want to say this shit's real. It's not real and it is real. Like in a realm, it is definitely real. And some people need that to wake up or to shift. Sometimes that's the thing that's stuck, if you may. So yeah, really important. And then what was the other thing in the movies? That's the basis of all the movies, of taking the power back. But then the other thing with a lot of those movies is that it's greater than us. You know, people are like, you know, oh, it's Ukraine, it's abortion, it's this, it's that. It's like they're keeping us here. They're keeping us in our little world so that we don't see the bigger world and the bigger picture, because of, you know, like the truth about the spiritual war that's been going on for freaking millennia. It's been going on for way longer, you know, than the last couple of years. You know, and when we remember that, we can take our focus away from it and put our focus where we want it to be, reclaim our power and pull out the damn implant, right? Take out the damn earphones, take out, like, turn the device off and go and stand in nature for a while and reconnect to yourself. Like, it's a thing, yeah? They're all the same. And it's so interesting when we see all these snippets and it's like, there it is, hidden in plain sight. The sugar cube pyramid, that's it, when it crashes, yes. Ah, see? Kelly says, I saw Minority Report. Tom Cruise takes out his implant in the palm of his hand. Yeah, all this stuff. And then if you look at what they're actually doing on the planet right now, is putting all the implants in, like microchips and shit, like whatever's. And then all in all, this is, you know, it's a huge change that we're going through in the world. And I know you guys know that, right? But go easy on your heart. There's a lot of heart healing going on at the moment, a lot of darkness going on at the moment. We are in throat chakra consciousness, moving into the heart. So it is like a big energetic point of it. And we are shifting into the heart, yeah? Good against evil, yeah, dark versus light, you know, all of that. So, all right, tell me, I'm going to finish this. I'm pretty sure I've finished everything that I want to do. I do have something coming out soon. So I've been going through a massive recalibration, changing the way I work, changing the way I deliver messages, hence why this world energy update, I'm like, ugh, because I've got all this stuff coming through that I'm being guided to do. And whilst I might come on and do them occasionally, like I'm creating stuff for you guys. Like there's things that I'm grounding that is going to shift everything for you. I'm really excited about it because I can only talk on live stream for like, I don't know, however long this has been, and say so much. But what I've got coming for you guys is going to be like, it's just going to help you. I'm not going to say any more than that. It's coming, okay? So yeah, and so just last little thing, what I do want you to leave me with is, number one, if you want support and working one-on-one, send me a message, let's have a chat about it. Number two, tell me how you support yourself through these heavy energies at the moment, through these times. Tell me how you keep sane. Tell me what you do to take care of yourself. Tell me what you're doing to pull your unplug from it, so to speak. Type it in. I want to hear it because this is so important. You guys know how to support yourself and pull out from that focus. So type it in, let me know. Give me like 3 things. Give me 3 things that you do, 3 or more. So Kelly says, energy is so much. There have been so many distractions and I wonder if I'm sabotaging myself, if I'm trusting myself and allowing the flow. See, I knew there's a couple more things. There's 2 more things I want to say while you're typing your things in. So light workers, energy healers, people who have done a lot of online stuff have felt so much like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. What's the point? Don't want to, like, you know, like, I don't have, it's not that I don't have the energy for it. It's like, it doesn't light us up anymore. It's like, and it feels like a lot of light workers, entrepreneurs, you know, leaders are just like, I want to say what's the point, but it's more like they've lost their enthusiasm for it. They've lost their drive. They've lost their thing. And I want to point out, number one, it's a recalibration, right? When we get to that point, you're recalibrating into something greater. It can feel like everything you've done today is pointless. You want to throw it away. You want to redo it all, but there's so much work. You don't want to do that. You're recalibrating and expanding. It's not that you have to throw all that out, because that's important for those people at that level of consciousness. What's important is that you're expanding to your next level. So what does that expansion look like? And I want to say, be okay in the recalibration phase. Yeah, so important to remember. Okay, even if you're going through a big life change and you don't have a business or anything like that, if you're going through a big life change, same thing applies. Yeah. The other thing I just want to leave you with as well is the dates. So I said before, it's like, why July 4th and 5th? Well, isn't July 4th Independence Day or something in the US? Like, you know, it's like when we look at, you know, certain dates, like even Christmas or Easter, like they're all a distraction to what's going on in the skies. In December 2020, I'd seen the most plasma lit up sky ever. Like, I look at the stars and the suns and everything very regularly. Like, I love it. It's something that fuels my soul, right? It's food for my soul. And so I noticed it, and then we've had all this stuff happen, and now we've got the platinum skies and the red sunsets and everything like that, right? So when we really look at, you know, the different timelines, it's good to check in, right? You're feeling a certain way. So, okay, what's going on in the world? Okay, what date is it? What astrological stuff is going on, right? You might have your own life stuff happening, and you have to remember that it can feel amplified because of all this other stuff going on. When you remember and you check in and you go, oh yeah, that's going on. Oh, that's right, it's a super full moon. Oh, that's right, Hannah said something about a planetary lineup. Follow Pam Gregory on YouTube, by the way. Awesome at her astrological updates. So, you know, like, check in, what's going on in my environment, what's happening, like, because when you just, it doesn't make it any easier when you're like, oh, a super full moon, great. Like, you know, it's just that it takes the edge off that you're losing your mind. And by the way, that losing your mind energy is a recalibration into the next dimension, the next energetic frequency. Right, I've been feeling that so much lately, and then it like came to me like last week. It was like, it's a frequency shift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's a frequency shift. Yeah, so just know that there's all these things going on. You're not losing your mind. You're not going crazy. Humanity's going through the most transformational period that we've ever seen for a long time, and we're all in this together. Yeah. Follow who on YouTube for a planetary update. Let me pop that on for you. She's awesome. I'll put it in because I think there's some scammer accounts that have come out, you know, as we've all had them. It's fucking ridiculous. Makes you wonder why they're doing that too. Like, I personally feel that they're getting paid for it, by the way. And there's all the bots and stuff these days. You don't need anything because the bots do it for you. Anyway, it's a whole nother subject, but you know, if you know, you know. All right, so I'm popping her channel in because of yeah, all the spam stuff. I'll just see if I can find that the sugar cube one, because it's really like how you just like, oh, okay. Like, it's not too long either. Let me just put that in too. If you haven't seen the sugar cube, the Blue Mountain sugar cube one where the lady's explaining it, yeah, it's one that I'll just pop in now because it's really just takes the edge off everything as well. If I can find it, hang on a sec. The pyramid pool, that's the one. I always forget what it's called. The pyramid pool and why things are better than they seem. So awesome. I shared that on. I've been sharing that video for quite some time when I first came across it several years ago, and it only had like 8,000 views or something. Now it's got 300,000. Fuck yeah, see? That's the thing, the sugar cube analogy. Yeah, I just popped it in. It's called the pyramid pool and why things are better than they seem. Sorry, the pyramid and the pool, and it's the sugar cube. She made it in 2017. She's awesome. She's one of us. So I've just popped it in there as well, the pyramid pool, and then there's Pam Gregory. I popped her link in as well. All right, so if you want to work with me, send me a message. And I'm going to go through these comments now. If you're telling me what you guys are doing to look after yourself, because this is so important that you guys know how to support yourself when there's big waves coming. When those tsunamis are coming, tsunamis of energy, because who knows what's going to happen in a few months with the pole shift stuff. It's like, I just think veils of reality are going to fully exponentially change, but there's a reason why we've all been getting prepared too. I think it's being prepared for more than what we realize, to be honest. Okay, let's have a look here. Yay, well done, powerful live stream. You're welcome, Danielle. Thanks for being here. So Kelly says, I've been asking myself if I've regressed, but perhaps I'm going through a massive recalibration. Yes, definitely. And then there's a time for recalibration, and then there's a time when we know we're sabotaging. So good check-in. Leanne says, meditation, sleep, and cooking. Yes, I've been cooking a lot too. I love it. It's very nurturing for the soul. Well, for my soul, it is. It's a lot of work at times, and I'm like, oh, but the reward. And I always cook up like a big thing, so then sort of for a couple of days. Prayer, meditation, cry, and release. It's Kelly. Yes. Vanessa, nature, music, and cuddles with my kids. Yum. Tracy, excuse me, says, mine is music, feet in the ground, and the beach. Yes, the beach. My 3 loves of life. That one. Danielle says, filtered water, crystals, and body treatments. Water's been a big one lately. Definitely I've been feeling that. Natalie says, bath, soaking in water, meditation before bed, and finding light. I love that. I love that, finding light. Soaking in water. By the way, salt water, you guys might know this, but salt water, like either in the ocean or ocean's most powerful, of course, but even in the bath with the magnesium salts and everything that you do, it actually helps to seal up the aura, very cleansing on the aura, and helps to seal up the aura as well, and almost like regenerates your aura, if you may. So does nature, but the salt water, always amazes me, like, I believe I'm a mermaid, definitely a mermaid at heart, and that we came originally from the water. And it's interesting to me that the pH of the ocean is 8.3, 8.4. And I know that from when I worked in the aquarium for 2 years and the saltwater fish we used to keep. And the pH of the ocean is the same pH as our blood. That has to make you go deep into asking why. Not just why, but it's just like interesting. Yeah, the pH of our blood is the same pH, 8.3, 8.4, as the ocean water. And it makes me wonder if when we're soaking in that salt water and we're soaking in the ocean, that's why we're like, because if it soaks into our skin and it's the same pH, it's like balances everything out. It's interesting, right? It's always like, so when I learned that, I was like, that just makes total sense to me. Yeah. Needed to hear you say that. Yeah, so important. Karen says, meditation, being creative, being in nature, moving the body, hiking, yoga, staying active. Yes, staying active is key, right? I'm like, got my treadmill. I'm like, thank God. Yoga's been calling me, and it's just like so amazing to me that I've not moved, like because of this, and just like being out here, and it's like moving again is like such food for my soul. Oh my God. Look out, world. There's some things coming, I tell ya. For me, like what I'm creating for you guys. It's insane. Okay, Damien, you're welcome. Angela says, I get out in nature. I listen to a lot of music. Yes, singing bowls or om chants, your meditations and live streams. Thank you. And I think you said breath work as well. Yeah, the breath and deepening the breath, opening the heart. Yes, being here with our feelings. Okay, so Tracy said, is it true that there is only one star that never moves? Don't know. When I look at do you know what the other thing? Oh my God, I forgot about this. would have been 2 nights ago. So Wednesday, what are we now? Yeah, would have been Wednesday night. It was Wednesday night because I went into town and came home at dark for physio, and I put the car away, and because it's dark out here, like the stars, I was like, wow, it's so clear. Like sometimes this, like there's no clouds, but it's not very clear, and sometimes it's so clear. And the Milky Way, like I've looked at the stars for years since I was a kid, because my dad always took me out in the station and shooting, and we looked at the stars because that's how we found our direction, blah, 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 blah. Like the stars have always been a thing. Like I got them tattooed on my face. Like, and so I'm always looking at them, and I've looked at them for a long time, and they've not changed. The move, like we'd sleep under the stars and the Milky Way would be like this, right? It'd be horizontal sort of, and then I wake up in the night and it's like move, like it moves, right? But I'm still like, and I was like, how can I take a photo of that? Okay, so if I can draw, okay, so if the Milky Way, let's just say the Milky Way is like a line, okay? It's not, but it's a line. Let's just say it's a thick line of stars, okay? On Wednesday night when I looked at the Milky Way, because I always just look at it, it's like the line, but it had like these 2 wisps like coming off it. Like if someone was to come in and just like move the stars and put a wisp here and a wisp here, I'm like, why is that like 2 wisps up? So we're going to talk about the sunsets and the sunrises and the platinum light and the red suns. And then I'm so curious, do you know what, like when it was like platinum light after platinum light, like I did a video of it because I was like, this new frequency coming in, right? The stars are brighter with no moon. Yes, they are. And then, but even some nights when there's no moon, they're still not bright. Like I'll go out and I'm like, oh, they're not very bright tonight. But sometimes they're just so immaculately clear. Like it's amazing. And there's been, like I said, these wisps, and I'm like, something's okay. And like combine that with everything we've seen. And you know, like the red sunsets to me have been really interesting, because in like February and the platinum skies kept happening. And then I did the live stream about it, the video about it, because I was like, something is happening. And because in myself, when I first started seeing them, I was like really absorbing them, because I'm like, well, this isn't going to hang around. I'm like, this is different, you know, and it's kept hanging around. And I was like, okay, maybe this is just normal now. And then the red sunset started happening, and I'm like, well, okay, now there's more stuff happening, and I'm like, oh, I know what's coming. And then I see the Milky Way wisps, and I'm like, something fucking massive is shifting. And that's why when we're friggin' fighting and shit online and this and that and the separation and divide, I'm like, dude, there is something way bigger going on, and it's way beyond us. It is just way bigger than us. Stuff is being sprayed. Yeah, see, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Like, and this is the thing, when I said, I'm like, people say, oh, that's because they're spraying the metals in the sky. And I'm like, well, the red sunsets and the platinum skies should have been around 50 years ago when they started spraying. But no, it's only just happened in the last 6 months. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. See, people, the conspiracyists, okay, not bagging you guys out. I'm just like, that's the label that we understand the people I'm talking about, right? They say these things. And I'm like, you guys are in the psyop. They've got you hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, because if you think outside the bigger picture, if that was true, those platinum sunsets and the red sunsets would have been happening way longer than 6 months ago, because they've been spraying since the 1950s or something like that. I don't know, quote me on it. You guys know better than me how long it's been going on for. And if that was true, those skies would have been happening way before 6 months ago. Just in my little observation, my intuitive observation, right? Reality checks. They've ramped it up. Yeah, but still, last 6 months compared to the last 50 years, like, really, you know? So when you say, is it true there's only one star that never moves? I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Maybe. Kelly says I've been doing more major clean out, throwing out, reorganizing. There's so much like decluttering going on so many levels, right? Excuse me, clearing out the energy. That's what happens in a distance healing. There's some stuff shifting. Because got on the call with my client and I started burping and stuff. He's like, are you all right? And I'm like, oh, I just forgot to tell you how I work. I'm clearing the energy to talk. I was like, damn it. I just get on and I'm right there. I'm like, don't give an introduction about how I work or anything. It's like my live streams, I'm like straight into it. I'm like, I didn't introduce myself, did I? Anyway. You've restarted meditation. Yes, that's been my savior lately. That's what I've restarted as well. And then the movement's coming with my treadmill. So excited about that. And more sleep, same. In the winter, I really enjoy more sleep. Yep. Having trouble getting to sleep because you see the bad energies. Yeah, so cooking, different recipes, awesome. And then the meditation is going to deeply help with that as well, because you're connecting to the true source. You're strengthening that pure energy, if you may not, you know, when you're connected to the true source and strengthening that by practice, consistency, discipline, that's what strengthens it. And so that other stuff can't infiltrate you when you're strong. When you remove the implant, your power comes back, right? When you stand up and know that you as a child means falling off your bike doesn't mean you're worthless and hopeless. And when you actually just stand up, right? Nobody's got power over you anymore. Love to sit on the porch at night and watch the sky. Unplug and see the grandbabies. Watch water. Yeah, exactly, right? Nature is massive, and breath work, making art are some of the things I do every day that help me ground me and bring me joy. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I ask the universe and archangels for new rising. Yes, asking you shall be given. Yes, Pam Gregory's awesome, yeah. That one star that never moves in the center. Well, where is that, Tracy? Where is it? Improving, because I'm like, have you actually seen it, or is this what you've seen on the device? Curious. Improving my farm, staying positive, maintaining my relationships. Yay! All right, sugar cube, pyramid pool is there. So sorry to hear, Tony. Paul says, massive distraction getting ready to move from Victoria to Queensland mid-July. I know, right? Distraction's insane. And it's almost like, you know, it's like a distraction, and then also like, you know, we have to check in if it's sabotage, but then also like it's like one thing after the next, and like it just can't. And you know, I've been questioning that a bit, because I'm just like, well, you know what, I'm just being called to be present with this right now, and I need to trust that more than ever. And so it's important to not beat ourselves up as well, and just like trust where we're being called for the presence too, especially when it's out of our control to like do other things. That's important, yeah, as well. You remind me of a mermaid when I first ever saw you. It's amazing. I love it. Yes, the stars. The stars. I know. That's one thing I'm looking forward to seeing, is the different star constellations when I travel. For sure. Yeah, the stars look different. Yeah, definitely. Cloud seeding is one thing, but the spiritual world is on fire. Exactly. It is all like it's going to come to a stop. I feel that too. I feel like there's going to be a snap, and there's going to be a tipping. Well, I know there's going to be a tipping point, but I do feel that coming. Yeah, I do feel that too. I can't still my mind to meditate. Okay, so the purpose of meditation is not to stop thought. It's not to still the mind. The purpose is to create longer and longer gaps in between the thought, and you become, you know, it's like brain's racing, and then it just, okay, brain's racing, okay, brain's racing, okay, brain's racing, okay, and it just gets longer and longer in between. It's not about stopping thought. We're human, we can't stop thought, but the gaps in between get longer and longer and longer, and that takes practice. And the other thing that helps meditation is by doing rigorous cardio or some sort of exercise before you sit down and meditate. Yeah. Used to meditate a lot, but strange things, even scary things began to happen. I stopped meditating and smoked at my house. Yes. And that's just because as you meditate, your vibration, your frequency rises, and you need to understand what your skills are so that you know what's actually really going on. That's what I teach in Trust the Intuition, yeah? Maybe the center of our soul? Yes, possibly. When I get inspiration and things move in domino effect, I'm trusting. Yes, exactly. A break point. Yeah, I do feel it's coming. I do. All right, guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thanks for listening to my world stuff update, and I look forward to seeing you soon. If you want to work one-on-one, send me a message. Love you guys. Bye.